Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Amy Carney, and my goal at Parent on Purpose is to inspire, motivate, and educate parents to make positive changes in their parental leadership, in their family, and in their home. In my book, Parent on Purpose, I talk about how technology is probably the most significant battlefield that we're facing as parents while raising children today. However, I think that technology is not necessarily the problem, but it's our time and our habits and how we give our children these screens with no boundaries that can be the issue. So we cannot turn a blind eye to the dangers lurking online, preying on our children. And to help us discuss this and talk about this sometimes tough topic today, I have invited rock star Nate Boulter here in Arizona to be with us. And so thank you so much, Nate, for being here and talking to us about this important topic today.
Thank you for having me here this evening.
Yeah. So I'll just tell you a little bit about Nate. I actually went to a recent human trafficking event here in Scottsdale, Arizona to learn more. And he was just so knowledgeable and so funny. And and he's a dad of four himself. So I just had to ask him to come on and join me for our Parent on Purpose community. Then I got to tell you, he's got a big bio. So I'm just going to pull out a few of his top best things here so you can learn a little more who he is. So Nate joined the Arizona Anti-Trafficking Network team in July of 2022. He also retired after 22 and a half years as a law enforcement professional, having reached the rank of sergeant with the Mesa Police Department. During his career, Nate spent 15 years in plainclothes and undercover assignments and was involved in all levels of investigations, including gangs, street crimes, drug interdiction, special investigations, and human trafficking. Today, he's currently the city's Empowered Against Sexual Exploitation, which stands for CEASE, program director. So we're giving our kids, Nate, screens in our homes and at our schools earlier and earlier, right? We're seeing younger and younger kids have these personal devices right in their hands, and parents and caretakers cannot put their head in the sand and pretend, that there's nothing going on these devices. We have got to be diligent when we give our kids these screens. So thank you so much for coming on with us. And I first want to hear, I know you have two young adult children, right? And then you have a 13 and a 9-year-old. Do they have smartphones, and why or why not?
So interesting. So because of everything that I've learned throughout the years, everything I've seen, my wife and I have a policy, and again, we're horrendous parents because we won't give our kids phones until they turn 16. And truly, it's been a blessing to have kids live their lives and not have to worry about drama and just all the other garbage that comes at them with cell phones. And recently, during a town hall, Virginia's Attorney General, Jason Miyares, he said something and it really hit home with me. And again, reiterated as to why we shouldn't be giving kids phones, especially super early. But he said, your child's childhood ends the day you give them a phone. And for every good that there is with phones, I think that there's probably 10 or 15 bads that you can cite for kids. And the other big part of it is that one, our parents don't know enough about phones and technology to keep kids safe. And then our kids certainly don't know what they're dealing with. And when they get into some of the issues that come with phones and come to social media, they're not prepared. And honestly, if we're not being proactive, as we talk today, we really have to be proactive and parent and be team members with our kids to keep them safe online. And so one of the interesting stories of my older two kids, who are now 22 and 20, as they reached the age of 16 and they got their cell phones for Christmas, they're very both excited, 2 years apart. And we have some rules in our family that, again, mom is your friend on every social media account. We get to see your phone. We set up, and again, like just in your book, you have a contract. In my house, if I'm paying your bill, it is my phone. I have complete access to that phone. And so it's super important that, again, we are actively participating in what's going on. So my oldest daughter, who's now 22, had her accounts, had a huge group of friends, and they were always very, very active doing a lot of stuff. And so for her, being 16 and understanding some of the things, she had questions throughout the process. But again, setting up accounts didn't mean a whole lot or have a whole bunch of negative influences for her. My daughter, who's 20 now, however, when she was 16, she was so excited to set up her Instagram account, set up her Facebook account. Um, Immediately, she started seeing the negative consequences. And it's not that she's more of a dramatic person or anything, but her friends were involved in different things that she didn't know about because she wasn't on social media. And so when my 20-year-old, about 4 or 5 months into having this phone, came to me and she's just like, Dad, I'm done. Um, I deleted social media, I deleted Instagram, and I asked her why. And she was like, Dad, you know how much drama there is? Like, people are bullying people, people are talking bad about people are just negative all the time, and I'm done with it. So she literally got rid of all of those accounts until she started at her current college, where she has to have some of those accounts to promote herself because she's in the art industry and, again, doing the performing arts. That gets her name out there for her reputation and stuff. And so that was huge for her. And again, as parents, we were able to see the differences that, again, different kids have different things going on, but I've literally seen families ripped apart because of cell phones and just the drama and everything that it brings back home to kids. And when you talk about kind of bullying and negative stuff, kids that were at school back in the day could leave school and come home and have a safe place. And now there are studies that show that up to 90% of kids are bullied, but they're bullied online. So when they come home and they still have that phone, they're bullied at home as well. So they don't get that safe place. So again, it's very, very important that we really look out for our kids and really look after them as far as, again, keeping them safe. We know that social media and the clicks and the likes has two different reactions to it, and even adults feel this. But studies have shown that there's a euphoric high that parents get, or sorry, everybody gets when you start getting clicks. And so if you get 100, 200, 300 clicks on a post, it makes you feel great. It makes you feel kind of, I am, somebody important. But when kids are putting selfies out there and they don't get any clicks or they get 3 or 4, they've actually seen that that has the exact opposite effect and causes depression and psychosis issues and serious mental illnesses because kids think they don't measure up. And unfortunately, a lot of the kids nowadays, in fact, especially among young women, it has shown that young women feel inadequate and not up to the fake standard that social media gives you. And unfortunately, numbers of them have even contemplated suicide just by seeing the posts and content that's on social media. So if we are not with our kids and understanding what they're going through and seeing, you're leaving somebody whose brain is not completely developed, who is going through a phase in life that completely on their own. And again, they don't know how to interpret these feelings or even to feel justified in their own lives, especially when, again, they may not be doing the vacations. They may not have those coach purses. They may not have the makeup or anything else. And again, that's totally fine that they don't, because very few people do. But again, social media is a make believe world that our kids unfortunately interpret as being real. Um, so
Yeah, and I think, and that's one of the things I loved and that I knew we would connect, is when you said my kids don't get a phone until they're 16, and we have the same rule in our family. And I don't, but the problem is not many parents are brave enough to do that, right? It's really hard to hold that standard when, we have a sixth grader. Our youngest is sixth grade, and he might be one of the only ones without a smartphone. And the school will also put pressure on you. So what do families do? What do parents do if their child, either 10-year-old, 12-year-old, 14-year-old, has a smartphone? What can they do now? What should they be doing to protect their child online?
well, so and again, getting into some of that, I want to push back on kind of some of the things that have happened since October, and this has been all over the news. And I mean, it clear to every news media has been covering this. But so in October, 41 attorney generals across the United States teamed together and sued Meta. Now, again, Meta is Facebook, it's Instagram, and WhatsApp. And they sued them because they found out that they were doing a horrendous job. In fact, their algorithms were actually enticing and luring kids and addicting our youth to their platforms. And again, they're hypersexualizing them and everything else. And so, again, that is huge. Because of the lawsuit in December, Instagram all of a sudden launches this huge campaign saying, "Hey, Instagram here, we are here to support parents. In fact, the quote says more than 75% of parents agree teens under 16 shouldn't be able to download apps from stores or app stores without permission." And wholeheartedly, that's totally true because, again, most parents don't know what 90% of the apps out there do. And again, right after that, here the 31st of December, they had Mark Zuckerberg testifying before Congress. And Mark Zuckerberg, right in there with warning signs that they had that said, hey, on Facebook and Instagram, hey, the content that you're about to view may be categorized as child sex abuse material. Okay. And then it had turn back or proceed anyways. And again, why they would even allow that on their platform. And during that, Senator Hawley invited Mark Zuckerberg and said, hey, do you want to apologize or anything? And Mark Zuckerberg actually stood up, turned around, faced away from the senators on the panel, and issued an apology to the kids who had been killed or hurt because of the damage of social media. So my question to parents, and again, you talk about that strength and standing up, would you knowingly take your kid and put him in a room with cocaine or meth or anything else and a whole bunch of addicts and drug sellers and say, hey, let's see which one of you guys end up getting hurt and not? Because that's truly what it is. This is an addictive quality. This is something they know is going to hurt kids. And so, again, parents being strong, looking out for your kids, it's not a question of right or wrong. It is, what are you going to do to defend your kids, their virtue, their morality, them staying safe? And especially as their little brains are developing, and they say now that our front cerebral cortex doesn't even fully develop till you're in your 25, to 30 years of age. Why are we doing this to our kids? So again, I think it's bigger than that. But again, would you allow your kids to go into that environment knowing that that evil is being brought on them?
Yeah, yeah, you're exactly right. But we don't look at it like that, right? We don't think of it like that so much of the time. And so, what protections should parents place? What boundaries should they have in place around these devices, around these screens?
So number one, like you said in your book, get a contract, let them know, hey, there's going to be some parameters. We have to be monitoring, and we have to be able to make sure that you're safe. And number two, parents who do not know how these apps work, go watch a 5 to 10 minute video on YouTube and learn about them. And the other thing too, before giving any kid any electronic device, especially anything with a chat feature, you need to sit down and have hard discussions. And some parents and a lot of parents get really queasy about like, oh, I don't want to talk about sex or pornography or this taboo subject. You have to have those conversations. You have to have a mature, open relationship with your kids, age appropriate, of course. But again, you have to have those conversations. Otherwise, they're going to go somewhere else and have them. They're going to have pornography teaching them what a sexual or healthy sexual relationship is. And again, we know 87% of porn has violence in it. So that is not where we want them seeing it. And again, kids between the ages of 10 and 12 are being introduced to pornography at that age now. So if you're not having these discussions prior to that, even before giving them a device, that is a huge failure that we as parents have to own and say, hey, I'm giving this kid this portal, and I always tell everybody, it's just like Bobby Boucher's mom who on Waterboy says, foosball's the devil. The phones are the devil for kids. And the problem is parents don't know either. So again, making sure you have that discussion with them. And I'm a huge advocate. They're my kids. I want to be the one discussing it with them because I know what their needs are in their lives, or I know what my spouse knows what they need to have. So again, I don't want schools or anybody else making that decision. I want to make sure that I am the one doing that. And then the other thing too is you have to understand that your kids are going to make mistakes. You are giving them a full-blown computer that, again, when I grew up in the 90s, we didn't have any of this. Like, cell phones were a giant brick. Like, the idea of being able to surf the internet and watch videos, I mean, was never even dreamt up probably at that point. And so you have to also, in addition to having these difficult conversations, you have to be there for your kids when they say, "Hey, mom, dad, I screwed up." And if you freak out and you flip out and go to the nth degree, your kid probably is never going to come back to you again and say, "Dad, mom, I screwed this up again." You know, they're gonna hide it from you. And again, you've got to be that person that says, "Hey, I understand. You're a kid. I'm here to help you. I'm here to soldier through this with you, and we're going to use some resources." Like, for example, some of our youth get preyed upon by predators, and they eventually, over time, develop this relationship where they solicit photos and they send them off to them, and then they end up getting posted on the internet. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has a huge program that is geared solely at getting rid of those photos and getting them off the internet. And so there are huge resources out there for parents when these mistakes inevitably happen. But if you don't have the talk with your kids and explain to them, "Hey, none of this disappears. Once you send it, it's there. Like, you don't get to say where it goes and who sees it. It can go anywhere." And a lot of kids don't understand that. That's why they use WhatsApp and they say, "Oh, no, no, it disappears, in 7 minutes or whatever." And it doesn't. And so it's super important that, again, you have those conversations so kids understand the extent of apps and what they do.
Exactly. And I write a lot about boundaries in our homes. Right? No devices in the bedrooms, right? I mean, that
Huge.
yeah, you just have to protect their sleep, their personal space. And so in our home, it's all screens are to be used out in the living area, right? That's we
Yep.
just and it's not that difficult. If you create those boundaries, this is how our family operates. They don't have to like it. This is just how it works, and it's to keep you safe, right? Um,
Absolutely.
so what about video games? I mean, video games for boys. I have two sons still at home. Video games are huge. My big thing is I do not like them chatting. I do not like them chatting with strangers. What do we do? What do we do for our sons? I mean, I know girls play video games somewhat too, but mostly our sons on these video games. How do we protect them?
So, and again, number one, I play video games. I'm a nerd like that. I like to play a bunch of Xbox and stuff. But again, one of the biggest downfalls I see with parents and electronics is not following the game rating systems that are out there. And I cannot tell you, and I'm sure you've probably seen it, but kids will be on and you'll be playing Call of Duty, which is clearly mature. Even the campaign itself has illicit stuff in it, references sexual behavior, sometimes drugs. You're killing people. And so again, it's a mature content for a reason. And then they always say online content not rated, which again, you're still seeing graphic, people getting exploded and bomb stuff. And then you always hear that little kid screaming and cussing and everything else. And you're like, what are you doing on here? So again, number one, follow that. Put your kids in places where they should be. Number two is just like your phone, just like social media. If you personally, as a parent, have not met this friend, get rid of them, block them, and don't allow them to be on your anything. And again, that's huge. Social media, if they're not in your real life world, get rid of them. And so if your kids are talking to people, because law enforcement have worked a lot of cases across social media and across Xboxes and PlayStations and everything else, that is the biggest thing. If you don't know who they are and they say, "Oh, this is, Flip Dizzy and he's, 559 or whatever is his call sign." Well, who is he in real life? And then do you know his parents? Do you know where he lives? Do you have the parent's phone number that you can actually go communicate and say, "Hey, this is a friend of my kids." If not, get rid of them, and block that person so they cannot talk to them.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, um, it's necessary, right? It's necessary. Are there games that you have seen more issues with, or more apps, more platforms that are that you're seeing, in your line of work that are preying on children more than others?
No, it goes across anywhere there's a chat feature, an instant messaging feature, a direct messaging service, anything like that. There's predation. And again, one of my colleagues who from back in Virginia, Donna Rice Hughes, she has a huge program all about protecting kids online. And one of her quotes is, "Where kids play, predators play."
Mm.
So if you are the type of person, and in social media world, there's only two types of people that I categorize out there. It is, I am awesome. Look at me. I've got all these great things. Life's great. It's 100% awesome. Or you have the woe is me person. And when I talk to parents, if you find out that your kid is a woe is me, you're putting your troubles and your challenges and everything else out there on social media, your predators that are looking specifically for that, they're looking for a reason to exploit these challenges. They're going to come after your kids. So when I say, like, hey, monitor what your kids are doing online, really monitor, find out what is the context of what their chats are, what is the context of what they're putting out there in the world. It's okay to be frustrated or have a bad day or whatever, but if that is your sole goal to, and you're like, oh, life sucks again, this happened to me, or my mom's this and my dad this, or whatever, again, you give me a need as a predator, I'm going to fill it, and I'm going to start using that to exploit you and leverage that against you. So again, it's very, very important that we are active participants in our kids' lives, and especially on any social media platforms.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. All right, you want to tell us a little bit about your work you're currently doing and how people can find you and follow you?
Absolutely. So currently I'm working with CEASE, which is Cities Empowered Against Sexual Exploitation. So we're going out, we're training cities who can reach a 75% training level on human trafficking, and the entire city itself can be designated as CEASE, or Cities Against Sexual Exploitation. That is one of the 5 programs under the Arizona Anti-Trafficking Network's umbrella. We have stuff that deals with schools, deals with community, deals with our hotel and hospitality program. So if you are interested in learning more, and you have our website up there, aatn.org, all of our services, our training, our handouts, flyers are all free. So if you want a community course, if you want something done at schools, let us know. We have a program under our umbrella that can definitely help with that. And again, it's free. So it doesn't cost you or the organization you're working with anything.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, I just want to thank you so much for your time. I think we could probably talk hours about this subject, right? Because it's
Definitely could.
so, yeah, we could and we should. And I just think we need to be talking about it more and more, and helping parents understand how important this is. And I know, the more parents that are willing to put these boundaries in place, the easier it gets and the better it is for society as a whole. So thank you for all the work you're doing. Thank you for joining us. And I look forward to talking with you here locally soon.
Thank you, Amy. Have a great evening.
Thanks, you too.